everyone, good afternoon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Darrell Winninger from the Central Oregon Daily Weather Center with a deep dive into your most reliable forecast. Now, through today, it has been sunny, it has been warmer, and we've had a breezy afternoon. The next couple of days, several changes are expected, and we're continuing to track the progress of the Alder Springs fire, which continues to develop as we go forward day by day. It started yesterday, but let's go ahead with a brief overview of what we've been seeing. We're sitting under a ridge of high pressure. Now, high pressure brings subsidence, stable atmosphere, and in this case, much warmer temperatures than average for this time of the year. Today, we've had very little cloud cover. Temperatures topped out in the 80s with some 70s, and several of our cameras show some haze, some smoke from the Alder Springs fire, but a few other cameras are actually showing the actual fire. They're pointed in that direction, and each one shows a lot of smoke in the air, but none of them are really showing much activity happening. Now, we have been seeing more hot spots via satellite imagery, so let's go ahead and take a look at it from a different view. This is looking at some of that data that I pull in from so many different sources. Those hot spots are coming from the VIIRS and the MODIS satellites, and they're showing that the fire did progress a little bit further to the southwest. Now, where you're seeing those hot spots, we don't have any cameras that are pointed in the direction to see a lot of smoke billowing up from that, and that did happen earlier. But the latest look at the details from the Alder Springs fire show that it's still at 2,500 acres. This is still the same size that it was yesterday, or yesterday evening, I should say. Through the evening hours, we did get an update, and that's when they expanded this from 1,500 acres to 2,500 acres. But it looks like here in the next several hours, we might get another update. They might expand it a little bit more. But when it comes to fuels, it's mostly timber and tall grass. This fire was originally reported yesterday morning, and at this time, it's 0% contained. And we're still continuing to track all the updates with the latest evacuation zones. And most of these have been in place for about 24 hours. About this time yesterday is when we were really seeing those expand rapidly, and changes were happening. But as of right now, we still have a level 3 go now evacuation for parts of Crooked River Ranch, including some of the community. And there is a level 1 out towards some of the Lake Billy Chinook districts, and in northern Deschutes County, Sisters districts and Redmond districts have the level 1 be ready evacuation. But let's zoom in a little bit more, take a closer look at this, because we have the latest footprint, that fire perimeter, mapped out on top of the evacuation zones, and you can see where yesterday it was actually encroaching into some of the communities. And remember, where you're seeing all these windy roads and the road names, the smaller boxes, that's a community. That's where there are neighborhoods, that's where there are structures, that's where there are houses, and some of those fire lines did get into some of those evacuation zones. But today, like we saw with a couple graphics ago when I had all the hot spots on there, it looks like it was building a little further to the southwest versus over the Deschutes and continuing to build into the communities. We haven't heard actual details on that through the day so far, but we are continuing to track all of this, and we'll continue to update you as we go forward. As of this evening, this fire has been producing quite a bit of smoke, and we saw it in several of the cameras. Right now, what you're looking at is vertically integrated smoke, and that takes the highest value through the atmosphere and plots it down. If I open this graphic up and change it real quickly to just surface smoke, it doesn't look as impressive. Now, that surface smoke is pushing mostly between Redmond and Prineville, but over over Terrebonne and some of those smaller communities in northern Deschutes County on 97. And we are looking at periods of reduced air quality and maybe even poor air quality through the rest of this evening going through tonight. As of right now, it doesn't look too bad at all. This little flame right here, that is the Alder Springs fire, and that smoke plume was pushing, remember, between Redmond and Prineville. Right now, a good portion of Crooked Crook County, does have moderate air quality. A couple of the real-time sensors are also showing moderate air quality, but it doesn't look too bad. Now, relative humidity has been improving. Earlier this afternoon, getting into the evening, we were sitting in the teens across the entire Tri-County area. Nevertheless, it is still very dry through Central Oregon. Add in the very dry conditions, couple those with the breezy winds that we have been seeing, gusts still between 15 and 20 miles per hour through Jefferson and northern Deschutes County. Now, when we look back a little bit, we see that it only got breezy through the afternoon and it's already starting to taper off here during the next couple of hours. But you couple those stronger winds with the low relative humidity and a fire that's already started, and that just doesn't spell good conditions for fire crews. But like we saw with some of those cameras, we do not have conditions that are causing this fire to flare up through this evening. Earlier today, there was a bigger smoke plume, but they were actually trying to connect the dozer lines with where the actual fire was. So they were doing that intentionally, but as of right now, it doesn't look too bad at all. Let's get back to those winds, because when we look at this graphic, everything to the left of that white line, that now line, that's already observed. Everything to the right of it is forecast, and we're at the peak of our stronger winds. By this evening, wind speeds will taper off, getting back to a light and then a gentle breeze, and it stays that way through most of the night. By tomorrow, it gets breezy again. Winds swing around from the south to the west and northwest, and then they start to swing around to the north again. Now, we're still looking at west-northwest winds, as winds are going to become breezy tomorrow, and based off of where that fire perimeter gets expanded to later on this evening, we'll know which direction that fire is probably going to be building. But remember, today it was building to the southwest, and that's something we're going to continue to track with you. Also, what we're tracking is power outages. These numbers all come from poweroutages.us, which tracks this across the country. Just about 30 minutes ago, there were 700 plus power outages in Deschutes County. That looks to be resolved. Still 700 plus power outages in Jefferson County, as well as in Lynn County. Over the crest of the Cascades, there's 400 power outages. So right now, it looks like roughly 1,100 plus power outages, and some of that is due to fire conditions. Now, let's look at conditions across the rest of the state and the Pacific Northwest and focus on the typical forecast. Right now, we are under the influence of a ridge of high pressure. This high pressure is bringing a couple of things to the plate. Right now, subsidence, a stable atmosphere, and some temperatures that are continuing to stay unseasonably warm. Today, we topped out in the mid to upper 80s, and we do not see much in the way of cloud cover. The closest precipitation is along the coastline of Washington up through the Olympic Peninsula. That's not making it this way. That's part of a cold front that's fizzling out, and it's going to continue to fizzle out. Even tonight and tomorrow, we're not looking at too much in the way of additional cloud cover, and that's because of the extremely dry air mass that we have over the Pacific Northwest. Right now, you're looking at water vapor imagery, and that comes from the satellites, the same one that brings visible and infrared imagery, but this one focuses on the lower levels of the atmosphere and how much moisture is present. Right now, not much at all. Now, also on this map is pressure. We see those white lines. Those are isobars, equal lines of pressure. And right now, when they're stacked closer together, that's indicative of breezy conditions. When they're spreading apart, winds are calming, and right now we look like we're going into a calming phase, and that tracks with what we were talking about earlier, when as we get closer to sunset, winds are going to be tapering off. Now, temperatures in the last 24 hours topped out in the 80s with some 70s on the map. Right now, we're mostly sitting in the 70s with 81 in Bend, 86 in Warm Springs, 79 in Paulina, Prineville, Madras, 78 in Redmond, 74 in Sisters and Lapine, and 73 degrees in Sun River. That puts us solidly between 2 and 7 degrees warmer than it was just 24 hours ago, and so it got a little warmer today. By tomorrow, we keep this warmth. So temperatures tonight fall back into the 40s, and then tomorrow we warm up through the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, reaching through the 70s and into the lower 80s. And so we're not seeing too much in the way of change when it comes to temperature tomorrow or in UV intensity. That forecast shows very high ultraviolet index conditions, and that continues into Thursday. But notice there's a dip on Thursday. That's because of some additional cloud cover. So Wednesday we're looking at few clouds, very dry conditions once again with no rain in sight. And so the UV index is cranked up to 10, not quite extreme, but still very high. When it comes to very high UV index, you've seen this graphic a lot, you know what it means. You'll want to make sure you have those sunglasses and sunscreen handy if you're spending a lot of time outdoors. If you're 2+ hours outdoors, you might want to think about a hat or UPF instead of SPF. You'll want some protective clothing maybe. When in doubt, seek the shade, and all the time, stay hydrated out there. Now, let's look at a forecast model. This one is using geopotential heights. It helps us target in on where there's really big ridges of high pressure or where there's low pressure spots. And the low pressure that we're going to be tracking is this one that's over the Gulf of Alaska. That's actually going to dig all the way into the Pacific Northwest, bringing cooler and wetter conditions. But first, a weak cold front. Right now it is actually a cold front, but it's going to be fizzling out before it makes landfall. So through Tuesday, highs are going to be in the 80s with some 70s, and we're still going to be looking at plenty of sunshine with very warm conditions and a breezy afternoon. By Thursday, we start to see the impacts of that weak trough, that weak cold front, and it's just going to bring in and out clouds with a dip in temperatures. You can see that low pressure starting to dig into the Pacific Northwest, but it doesn't really take shape until Friday. We're going from 80s and some 70s Wednesday to 70s on Thursday to 60s and a few 50s possible by Friday. This is a quick and big drop in temperatures. Winds are going to be breezy, and we're looking at the chance of some showers. Then that low pressure fizzles out over the Pacific Northwest. So as we go forward day by day, we're looking at a huge drop in temperatures that's going to be knocking us back down into the 50s by Saturday. This weekend and is not going to be ideal for outdoor conditions, but it will be ideal if you're into agriculture, if you just miss the rain, if you have a garden and you're tired of irrigating it, because we're looking at the potential of some showers. It doesn't look like it's going to be a lot of significant rainfall. We're actually looking at periods of clearing. Off and on showers are going to be expected, but that bigger drop in temperatures also comes with winds that are going to be breezy for many of us. So let's look at the traditional forecast model. This is what we use on air, and here through the next couple of days, remember, this is the low pressure that we're tracking way up over the Gulf of Alaska and the northern Pacific Ocean. Through tonight and most of Wednesday, we stay clear. By Thursday, that trough works its way into the high desert, bringing a little bit of moisture, but only in and out clouds. Not much in the way of precipitation at all. It also triggers a dip in temperatures. By Friday, some scattered PM showers are expected. By Saturday, that low fizzles out over the Pacific Northwest. We're looking at more off and on rain. Let's switch gears, go to a more long-range forecast model. The other one just stopped. We got to the end of it. So by Friday evening, we're starting to get a break from some of those off and on showers. By Saturday, the remnants of that low pressure digs even further into the Pacific Northwest. We are looking at off and on showers, a little bit of snow in the Cascades, not much to get excited about though. And then that continues until Sunday. We finally start to see some clearing. After that, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just some in and out clouds are expected and temperatures begin to rebound. And that rebound comes with the warming trend that's going to bring us back through the 70s and into the 80s. So between now and Thursday at 11 p.m., the closest precipitation is on the other side of the Cascades, and we're talking some light showers. Nothing happening over the high desert. Meanwhile, when it comes to winds, we already saw this graphic. Winds are currently gusting between 15 and 20 miles per hour. Actual wind speeds, however, are more like 5 to 15 miles per hour, still coming out of the north and northwest. Now here through the next couple of days, we've already talked about how we're on the downhill side of the breezy conditions today. We're going to start to see tapering winds and a gentle breeze. By tomorrow, a breezy afternoon and evening. By Thursday, even stronger winds are expected. Remember, Wednesday and Thursday, we're still either near or above average conditions when it comes to temperatures. We're not expecting any precipitation, so it's already going to be dry. Add in those stronger winds, and any fires that start are likely to spread rapidly. At this point, there is no red flag warning or even a fire weather watch, but it is something we're continuing to track very closely, as we've already seen several fires across the state and a couple right here in our Tri-County area, including the Sunnyside fire that was over the Warm Springs Reservation and mostly in Wasco County, but a little bit in Jefferson County, and that was just a couple weeks ago. Now for tonight, we're falling back into the 40s. A few 30s and 50s are possible. Then through the day tomorrow, we're topping out in the lower to some mid 80s possible with some 70s 70s on the map. Now, looking forward through the next 7 days, you can expect this bigger drop in temperatures to take shape between Wednesday and Friday. We're going to be in the lower 80s Wednesday, 70s Thursday, closer to average, maybe even a little below average for this time of the year. And then by Friday and Saturday, we're in the 60s and then 50s. That's a huge drop in temperatures in a short amount of time. Friday and Saturday will be our best chances of rain. Sunday, we start to get that clearing. Temperatures begin to rebound. Monday and Tuesday, we're back into the 70s and 80s. So this is going to be a quick moving cool down that's going to bring some rain. And remember, the summer solstice is on Friday. The actual solstice time is at 7:41 p.m. It's not going to feel like summer. We're going to be well below average for this time of the year. Juneteenth, however, looks pretty nice. So here's a recap for you. Your weather headlines for this Tuesday, June the 17th. Our sunny and warmer pattern lasts for one more day. Elevated fire danger is expected until our next chance for rain. That holds off until Friday and Saturday. At that time, it's going to be cooler and wetter across central Oregon. And looking that day at the second week, we're talking days 8 through 14. We start off a little cooler than average for this time of the year. Then temperatures start to rebound, and seasonable precipitation is expected. Really not much after we get through this active weekend. Our observed precipitation in the last 30 days well below average, and for the last 365 days we have this abnormally dry slot coming down from Madras and Warm Springs all the way through Redmond and Prineville and down the Deschutes Crook County line. And so we need the rain. We are still in a little bit of a drought. The next drought monitor gets updated on Thursday, so we're still a couple days out from that, and we are still continuing to track the progression of the Alder Springs fire, which is in Jefferson County and has been continuing to grow a little bit more today. There is still a series of evacuation notices, mostly in Jefferson County. There are some level 1B ready evacuation notices in northern Deschutes County, and just for reference, Redmond is down here, Sisters is down here, but where we are with this, it's in the northern parts of Deschutes County and mostly in Jefferson County, around the Crooked River Ranch community. So if you or anyone you know live there, where you're really following this pretty closely, and we haven't seen too much development in the way of expanding or decreasing our evacuation zones, and we're still waiting on the final numbers to come in for today for what that fire perimeter is set at. Right now, the latest information has it at 25 acres and 0% contained. That is the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. That's at 11 p.m. on ABC and CBS. We'll have newer, updated information and all the details that you need to know to plan the rest of this week and this weekend for you and your family. But that's it for now. We'll see you then.